Welcome to Fancounters. My name's Nick.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And Elizabeth is on the phone this week because we didn't think we'd actually have to tape a show this week.
Right.
No, it's kind of weird.
What's up with that?
Well, we had scheduled enough guests to get us through until next week, but then something happened. I think I'm starting to learn not to try and do interviews in person. Or
Okay.
at least that's what this one taught me. So our guest this week was supposed to be Robert Reams, and you would know him from the hit MTV show Teen Mom, Young and Pregnant. Robert was the boyfriend of Brianna Jaramillo, who moved to Oregon, took her boyfriend with her, and then kicked him to the curb and sent him packing back for Wisconsin. So, what's a podcast host in Milwaukee to do? Contact the only celebrity that you can find in Milwaukee and schedule him for an interview.
Okay.
After many weeks of going back and forth about when this interview would take place, we scheduled it for a Saturday morning at Starbucks. So we said we would do it at 9 a.m. I get to Starbucks about 8:30 just to make sure I'm there early in case he is. He was not. And get my drink, and I sit down, and I'm like, man, it's loud in here. They got the music going. There's tons of people coming in and out. It's a very small Starbucks.
And you're going to audio tape this?
Yeah. We're going to do this for a show. And as I'm sitting there waiting, 10 minutes, now it's 9 o'clock, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes. It's now 10 o'clock. He's still not here. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he thought it was at 10 o'clock. So then I finally text him, and I say, Robert, I'm at Starbucks. Are you coming? And he texts me, sorry, man, on my way. So, yeah.
How far away do you feel he lives from this Starbucks?
Oh, I have no idea. I think he's in West Dallas.
Okay.
So maybe 15 minutes.
Okay.
All right, so I text him, and I say, are you 15 minutes after he's, an hour and 15 minutes after he's supposed to be there, and I said, are you still coming? He says, on my way. I said, awesome, thanks for the update. Then 30 minutes later, I text him again, are you close? He says, 10 minutes, sorry, running late. I said, it's okay, just wanted to check. Then he shows up. Is it
like 11 o'clock now?
Yeah, now it's 2 hours and 15 minutes past time, and he shows up, and at this point, I had left the Starbucks, okay, because I was sitting there. I wasn't going to keep buying coffee for a guy that's not going to show up, okay? So I go out to my car, and I'm watching the people go in and out of Starbucks, and finally, I think I see him, and he texts me, and he says, I'm here, and I said, okay, cool. And so then I walked in, but you know what? I didn't walk in with my audio bag because I knew how loud it was in there, and I was going to convince him either A, let's change the location and go to a library or something, or let's do it in a car. So I go into the restaurant, and he's sitting in a booth at Starbucks, and he is on the outside of the booth, and his friend is on the outside of the booth, so I'm basically standing at his table like a waiter. And I introduced myself, and I said, it's really nice that you were going to do this interview with us, because what was going to be so interesting about this was he was scheduled to be on MTV's reunion show for Teen Mom, Young and Pregnant, and he blocked them from Skype so that they couldn't call him. And so I thought, what a great story. He could get his story out. That's what we're here for. We are a safe place for people to tell their sensitive stories. I mean, we've had people tell their cancer stories on the show before.
Yeah.
So I thought we could really do this in a nice, sensitive way, and that's what I explained to him. We're on your side. We want to hear what you have to say. And he goes, well, what's this for? I was like, are you serious? I've been here 2 hours and 15 minutes, and you don't know what you came here for? Really? So I said, it's a podcast, and I can't tape in here because it's too loud. Can we do it in your car or my car? Well, what are you going to ask me? I sent you the questions, Robert. They're in your email. Didn't you read them? He doesn't say a word. He pulls out his phone, finds the attachment, and then starts reading the questions in front of me while I'm just standing there.
And no one has moved over for you to sit down?
No, I'm obviously not welcome at this table. So he reads through the questions, and as he gets to the end, he's like, I'm going to take a rain check. I was like, really? Awesome. Well, Robert, you have a fabulous day. Please let me know when you're ready to do the interview. We can do it by phone because I'm not meeting up with you again.
Right.
And that is why we don't have a guest this week. Now, I really do not tell negative stories about any of our guests on the show, whether we've had pleasant experiences or not. Well, the or not parts we don't talk about.
Right.
And this is just one that my time was so wasted, it was at least worth a 5-minute story, you know?
Right.
So.
Oh, I'd be mad.
Yeah, that's why we don't have a show.
I wouldn't have waited that long, though.
Yeah.
You're a much more patient man than I am.
I didn't want to wait that long either, but I did clear my morning for him. So I figured I had nothing else going on, and I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. And I knew that if we got to talk, I had good questions ready.
Yeah, he'd have a good story.
Uh-huh.
What a bummer.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to ever get Robert on the show. He has not unfriended me on social media yet, which is odd. Until he hears this, I'm sure. But Robert, you're welcome on the program anytime. We were on your side. I was even going to tell him a nice story about how I moved somebody to where I was living, and then it didn't work out and broke up with that person, and they were kind of sort of stuck in a new city and had to figure out what to do. And I was going to relate that way.
Yeah.
It was not meant to be.
Huh. That's okay, because we can give our fans some fantastic clips.
Well, this is show 75, so we thought that instead of having Robert on the show, we would do the best of the last 50 episodes. So if you haven't listened to Fancounters before, this is a perfect chance for you to get caught up on all the great stuff you missed. Now you can start at episode 76 next week after hearing today's show, of course, and you'll be all caught up.
Look at that.
Does that sound good?
Yes.
All right. So today on Fancounters, we're going to go through the last 50 episodes, and we'll start that in just a minute.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the PodFix network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom. Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
All right, episode 75. So we're going to look back at the last 50 episodes, and we're going to start with episode number 26. On that show, we had a Broadway performer, and they might not be the biggest celebrities on the planet, but they are some of the most talented. And for many who dream of performing on a New York stage or a national Broadway tour, seeing their favorite stars come and go from the theater is a thrill. So way back on episode 26, we had Finding Neverland star Lael Van Kuren, who talks about her stage door experiences with fans. Have you had any experiences with fans since you've been on this tour?
Absolutely. And I haven't really come to expect that, but it's been so lovely. And we are very active with our stage door. We come out the stage door after every single show, even matinees. And yeah, the people that we meet, that's another awesome part of this job, is all the people you get to meet. We get so many fan drawings and gifts and cards and letters, and the list goes on, and it always kind of brings tears to my eyes, because it's such a lovely thing to witness and to see that we are in fact affecting people in such a positive way. It's exciting to get to see.
She also talked about her favorite type of fan.
Sometimes it's someone's first experience seeing a Broadway national tour, and those are always the really exciting moments where you get to know that you're the first. Because I think if you're into the arts, if you're into theater, you always remember your first experience sitting in a dark theater and seeing a Broadway show, seeing a Broadway national tour, and And so knowing that, that Finding Neverland could be the first for countless people has really, been an incredible thing to realize.
On episode 27, Janet Varney is our guest. Janet is a widely successful actress who stars on Stan Against Evil and You're the Worst. She also runs the San Francisco Sketch Fest. You might not know her, but she was the voice of Cora in Legends of Korra. In this clip, she talks about the reaction kids give her when they meet the person behind the voice of their favorite on-screen cartoon character.
I always love doing kids shows because those are some of the most fun little afterwards where you go out and kids are running up to, people who do voices, like Scott Axett does the voice of Big Hero 6, and he did our Groundlings children's show. And, to go out into the lobby afterwards and see all these kids with just these giant eyes, just staring at Scott, do the voice, those are some of my favorite encounters, is seeing those kids. And the kids are, like the version of the kid who like runs up and is like, can I take my picture with you? There's always like one kid of that. And then there's 3 kids who are like hiding behind their mom or dad's legs, like clinging to the leg as the leg is moving across the room. And then, peeking out, and the mom or dad is like, she just loved your show. She's not going to tell you that. She's very shy, but she wanted me to tell you. Those are like, they just like put such a spring in my step seeing those encounters.
On episode 29, we met Jade Pettyjohn, the star of the Nickelodeon show School of Rock and the soon-to-be-released movie Deadwood. Now, since Jade is a Nickelodeon star, I figured that she had been slimed a time or two, and I couldn't wait to find out what the sliming experience was like. Let's get behind the scenes of the sliming. I'm interested. Is it cold? Does it take forever to get out of your hair? What are we talking here?
Okay, so there's 3. They're all secret formulas, so no one's allowed to know what slime is actually made of.
Okay.
But there's three kinds of slime. There's some that you can eat. There's some that you cannot eat. And then there's another kind. The one that I had, I've been slimed twice, and both of them are very, very cold. They're very soft, though. That was the thing. Is like it's hard to get out of your hair. It's hard to get off of your body and stuff. But it's like a really good conditioner. Honestly, they should make some slime hair products because it's so soft, and it made my skin so soft. Also slightly green, but that's okay. And so it's that. And also the first time I got slimed, it actually smelled really good. The second time, not so much, but the first one, they had a different formula, and it smelled like vanilla-y, which was nice.
Maybe that was the edible one.
Maybe that was the edible one, yeah.
That's
funny. Sliming is very fun.
I also found out I had something in common with Jade, that she and I both can do our alphabet backwards, and Nick wanted a demonstration.
You and I share a talent that apparently that you showed on the Hallmark at the Hallmark Home and Family show. That you can do your alphabet backwards, and Nick would like to hear it.
You can do that too?
I can, yes.
That's amazing. Yeah. I haven't met anyone who could do it. That's so great.
Yes.
I think you both should do it.
No, I think I want to hear her do it because I can.
Can you do it after her then? If she does it, you'll do it?
I can do it if you want me to, but I've never actually heard someone else do it.
Well, she just never heard anybody else do it either.
So
I know, we should do it at the same time.
All right.
No, let's do one
Nick
at a
wants
time.
to hear you do it.
Let's see.
Okay.
It'll be a wrap-off.
Oh, no, I'm nervous. I've got someone who knows what I'm doing now. Okay. ZYXWVUTSRQPONMLKJIHGFEDCBABCs.
Yay! Well, you do it. You are even better than I am because I don't actually sing it backwards.
What? Oh,
no, well, because
I was able to do it.
Yeah, no, I can visually see the letters, and then I just read them off backwards. So. Yeah,
I can testify that she does not have an alphabet in front of her.
No, and so I don't necessarily believe that we need to hear me.
No, we do. She does. She's never met anybody that can do it.
ZYXWVUTSRQPONMLKJIHGFEDCBA.
Wow. Were you singing the song in your head when she
No.
was? No,
Oh,
Jade.
wait,
Were you singing it in your
Jade.
head when she was doing it?
I'm very musically oriented, so I have to have some kind of swing or rhythm, Z-Y-S, da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
You know.
There's some clueless trivia that you've all got now for the rest of the day.
I know.
Something I learned.
Really useful data.
Right.
Episode 30 featured touring comedian Robert Duback, who is so funny his comedy literally kills.
I had one in Chicago, an old guy fall out of his chair. He was laughing so hard he was having a heart attack. And we had to stop the show and get the medics to come in. And he's white as a sheet, and he's still chuckling laying down on the ground.
Oh, my gosh.
I mean, the guy's on death's door. He's having a blast. So that made it easy to work with.
Did he survive? Do you know?
Yes, he did.
Oh,
yeah,
thank goodness.
I killed, but not literally.
Right,
basically.
good. Thank
Put
you.
it that way, right? Yeah. And the other that was really touching was, like I was explaining to you earlier, the last show that I wrote, The Male Intellect and Oxymoron. I had a couple of things. I'd have people come who had saw it while they're dating, and then they'd come back when I'd come back 4 or 5 years, and they were married, and then they'd come back, with their kids now, because the show's about 20 years old, bringing them to the show. And I says, well, I hope this doesn't lead to divorce, because I don't want you guys to come back, separately. You have to start this whole thing all over again. But I mean, that's one thing that's very touching. That it's kind of like there are people who they got copies of the DVD and they show it to everybody on there, who comes and they spread it around. That's interesting. But I had this one woman who actually asked me if it's part of all kind of it. Well, it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, so it was before the Me Too movement, but she wanted to propose to her boyfriend instead of waiting for him to propose to her. So I worked it in the show that I would bring her up on stage and bring him up on stage, ask him questions about, it was after the show, did he learn anything? And it was a real kind of touchy moment because it was like, it was a memorable moment because, most of us try to think of something memorable to remember what our engagements are. And I think this is something that, she proposed to the guy. She got on her knee and asked the guy to marry her with a ring on stage. And, of course, he said yes. And, any schmuck would have to say yes.
Oh, you better. You're not going to be able to walk out of there.
And I think they're still very happily married. So that was, one of those true moments that was a nice memory to have.
One of my favorite guests of the last 50 podcasts was Suzanne Wong, who many of you might remember from her hosting role on House Hunters. Suzanne had so many great stories to tell us that we had to do her for 2 episodes. In this first clip, she introduces us to a drinking game you can play while watching House Hunters.
And do you know there was also a college drinking game that developed from House Hunters where in college a bunch of people would watch House Hunters together. And every time anyone said the word nice, everyone had to take a shot. Because it got to the point where the show producers were trying to encourage the realtor and the house hunters to come up with a different adjective other than nice.
Right.
Like, oh, this bedroom's nice, or this closet is nice, or this backyard is nice. And, that it just became this drinking game, which I thought was hilarious.
We get a lot of great fan encounter stories from our guests, but not all of them are positive, as we're about to hear.
I remember there was this party I went to in L.A., and this woman came up to me, and I'm going to change her name to protect her identity. But she comes up to me and she says, hey, you were on my show. And I said, I was? And she says, oh, no, what I mean is, I was on your show. And I said, oh. And she meant House Hunters. And she said her name, and we'll say her name was Kelly Berman. She goes, I'm Kelly Berman. I have a 12-year-old son. We live by a lake. Remember my episode?
Yeah,
and
right.
I said, no, I'm so sorry. I've shot hundreds of episodes, and as you know, I never get to meet the House Hunters.
Right.
And she says, I can't believe you don't remember me. Kelly Berman. I have a 12-year-old son. We live by a lake. Unbelievable.
What's
the matter with you? And I was
so flabbergasted. She was screaming at me. I didn't know what to say. I had already apologized.
Right.
Yeah, there's no appropriate response to that.
You're like, lady, we've never
Right?
met.
Right.
And
I was dumbfounded. And she followed me around the party all night long, glaring at me.
Oh, jeez.
And I realized that from now on, I should just say, yes, that was my favorite episode of all time.
Because I watch every single one of them.
I can't, Suzanne.
Right?
Suzanne, seriously, I can't imagine you're watching these things after they air every single
Of
one.
course. I don't watch any of them.
That's
I've
what
already
I thought.
shot the thing
That's what
on
I thought.
camera. I've done all the voiceovers,
Right.
and then I move on with my life.
Right.
I couldn't possibly remember. I mean, wow. Anyway,
That's
but
hilarious.
I didn't say it was my favorite episode because my parents taught me not to lie. So
Right.
it was a very awkward moment.
One of the things I won't forget about Suzanne's appearance was a bit she did about nursery rhymes. And I'll admit, I'm guilty of singing many of these to my kids.
Me too.
I have a theory about why maybe people are crazy in this country.
Okay,
And I think
can't
it
wait
might
for this.
originate from the crazy nursery rhymes and lullabies and poems we teach our kids.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you guys, but so let me just give you a few examples. So when I was a little girl, my mom and dad would tuck me into bed and they would say this prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep.
Yeah.
I pray the Lord my soul to keep. So far, so good, right?
Yep.
Mhm.
If I should die
Yep.
before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. What? I mean, what? I'm sorry. Night, night, little Susan. Good luck with that. I hope you don't die in your sleep, but if you do, oh well, it's been fun.
Well, yeah, and then don't let the bed bugs bite as they walk out the door.
Yeah, like night, night, sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Bed bugs?
And they wonder why all of us have insomnia.
And I'm thinking, what is happening? And then there's that song, Ring Around the Rosie, right? Ring around the
Yeah.
rosy, pocket full of posies. Everybody's in a circle holding
Yep,
hands.
yep.
Ashes, ashes, we all fall down like it's a fun game. Do you guys know what that's about?
Yes.
Do you know
plague.
what's about?
Black plague.
Oh,
About the
geez.
plague.
So Ring Around the Rosie, there was a red circular rash that would form
Yep.
on your body if
Oh,
you had
wonderful.
black plague. Pocket full of posies is, you know how you would take herbs and stuff and crush them up and try to make these, potions to
Yeah.
cure it, but it didn't work.
All right.
So ashes, ashes, we all fall down means that everybody dies.
Dies.
And then the last one, to me, the ultimate is Rockabye Baby. So
Right.
right?
Who puts their kid in a
Rockabye
tree?
baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. So far, so good, right?
Mm-hmm.
When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall, and down will come baby, cradle and all.
Boom.
Night, night, little Billy. Like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I don't understand. First of all, there's a cradle up in a tree, which, okay, we'll go with that, right? It's on the treetop. It's rocking. That's fine. Everything's fine. But then all of a sudden, the branch breaks, and the baby in the cradle plummets
Falls.
to the ground to its death, and that's the lullaby?
Right.
I
Now
mean,
go to
I
sleep.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I feel like if you're going to make that the lyric, then the music should match the lyric. So it should just be more like, boom, 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 a rockabye baby on the treetop. When the wind blows, the cradle will rock. When the bough breaks, the cradle will fall. And down will come that little bitty baby and all dead baby, dead baby. Like that's how it should go.
There you go.
It shouldn't be like a beautiful sounding lullaby.
Elizabeth, you and I went to see the movie Love, Simon together before we interviewed one of the stars of the film, Clark Moore. It turns out that Clark went to see another movie around the same time that his came out, and he didn't realize Love, Simon was also playing in a nearby theater, which led to an awkward fan encounter.
I did have one guy, I think part of, so I went to the movie theater to see a different movie. I went to go see Ready Player One last weekend, and I did not think about, when I was going to it, I didn't think about the fact that there would be a screening of Love, Simon happening like right next door.
In the theater?
Oh, right.
What were you thinking?
Yeah, it was a little weird because I also didn't want to, I didn't want to look like I was there just to be seen, like
right.
that sort
like
of.
I wanted to go to the
Did
movies.
you see my movie? Yeah, I was in it. Did you see me? Want to take a picture?
Let's stand in the lobby and sign
Right. Next to the poster going, huh? Did you see it? Did you see it?
Exactly. So I was waiting, but the friend that I went to go see it with went to the restroom, and I was waiting for her, and this guy walked by and made eye contact with me, and he goes, "Blue?" And then he kept walking.
Oh.
And I was like, I looked around and I was like, surely he's not talking to me.
Surely
and I was so confused because I had just seen a completely different movie. And I was just like, what the heck? What just happened? And I didn't even think about it. And then maybe like 15 minutes later, as we were sort of like walking out, maybe like 5 minutes later, he walked up to me and he goes, I'm so sorry. Were you in Love, Simon? And I was like, yes. And he was like, I just loved you in the movie so much. And I just wanted to say that I'm sorry for that awkward experience 5 minutes ago. And I promise I'm not following you around. I just really wanted to tell you that your performance really impacted me. And then he made prayer hands and bowed to me and walked away.
Aww. See?
It's very strange.
The world is changing. It's just going to be a long time.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That is a surreal experience to be in a movie and come out and be like, wait a minute, you were just
no way.
in this movie. Because that will never happen in Wisconsin where we are. But, you know.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Not
and
a common
it happens
occurrence.
Quite a bit in L.A.
Yeah.
But, you know, you got to go see movies.
Right.
I wanted to see the Ready Player One.
Last year, we were captivated by the show Unsolved, The Murders of Tupac and Notorious B.I.G., which starred Brian Guest, who was our guest on episode 34. You wouldn't think random guest star roles and shooting commercials would get you recognized on the street, but Brian has one memory he will never forget.
I shot a commercial, I'd say like 6 or 7 years ago. It was a beer commercial, and it sort of played a lot, and so my face was out there a lot on this beer commercial. And I left Jelena in Venice, very nice restaurant. It's like one of my favorite places. It's very expensive, so I don't go there that much. Mm-hmm. But it's on Abbot Kinney in Venice, and so I left with my girlfriend, and we were walking down the street, and this guy started just following me with a camera, and he started asking me. This is when Arnold Schwarzenegger was sort of in the news with stuff about his nanny. And so I started asking me all these questions. I was like, hey, man, like, who are you? What's going on? And he's like, it's this TMZ. I was like, okay, no, come on. Someone's like one of my buddies put you up to this. Like, this is very funny, hilarious. What's going on? He's like, no, I'm with TMZ. And he handed me his card, and it really was. He's like, no, you're the beer guy, right? I was like, what?
Wow.
There's gotta be other people that you're.
It's a very slow news day.
Yeah, I mean, I was just like, must be like a slow news day to be trying to follow me down Abbot Kinney. So that was pretty funny.
Wow. Any like regular fans that maybe have come up to you at inopportune times or anything like that?
Inopportune times,
or anything that jumps to mind.
Yeah, I mean, I get letters every once in a while from people that watch stuff. When I guest starred on Torchwood, that was sort of like a big, like a worldwide sort of like cult phenomenon, the sci-fi show done by Russell Davies, and so I shot that with Bill Pullman, and so I think a lot of people that watch that are still watching that.
Sure, yeah.
So every once in a while I'll get like, a handful of letters in the mail. They're like, hey, like, loved you on this, blah, 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 blah. I don't know. I don't get like people coming up to me and like, in restaurants or anything like that. I'm sort of like the undercover guy on TV. You like might recognize me here or there, but it's not, it's not like, my face is popping all over the places. Like people in restaurants like, hey, I know you. Right, guest.
One of the only times my daughters were interested in a podcast we did was when we welcomed Kiara Muhammad to the show. She was the original voice of Doc McStuffins. So being a voice actor, she admits she doesn't get recognized often, but when she does, she brings smiles to the faces of little kids.
I did experience one time I was in a Disney store with my aunt, and because my family, they're kind of crazy. They'll go in every Disney store and see what Doc McStuffins toys they have and all this stuff. They want to see what they have. And my aunt was talking about it like, oh, this sounds like you. And there was someone there. And the mom like looks over from her stroller. She's like, I'm sorry, did you just say you're the voice for Doc McStuffins?" And my aunt's like, "Yep, that's her." And she was like, "Oh my God, my daughter loves your show." She's like, "Can you sign this toy? I'll buy it right now."
Oh my gosh.
That's cute.
Yes. Yes, I will sign it, of course.
Having such a recognizable voice does get her some special attention with her friends.
I've had friends ask me to like record a birthday message, or my parents will ask for their friends' children to get like a message like, "Happy birthday, Sophia. Thanks for watching the show. Love Doc," like something like that.
Okay.
And then my friend Alexis, she has a bunch of little cousins, so it would be on, and she's like, "It's so weird just being in the house, hearing your voice, but you're not there." I'm like, oh, that's funny.
Now, you would think kids would go crazy when meeting the voice of their favorite cartoon character, but in episode 36, Leia DeLeon Hayes, who is the second and final voice of Doc McStuffins, found the age of people fan geeking out is just a bit older.
It's mainly the adults that go crazy. Some of the kids, like, their parents will be like, "Hi, this is Leia. She's the voice of Doc McStuffins." And the kids are looking for the actual Doc McStuffins.
Like, where's the giant head thing, you know?
It can be a little confusing, but, like, the parents get really giddy and excited. We've even had one start tearing up. And the kid is, like, over there super confused.
Leia has also been asked by strangers to do the voice on command. I'm sure at some point they must get tired of that.
Some memorable fan encounters. Oh, one time, I remember when I was at the Tom Joyner family reunion, this woman came up to me and she was like, "Hey, we heard you're the voice of Doc McStuffins. Can you sing to my baby?" And so I sang to this girl's baby to the Time for Your Checkup song, and like the baby did not know what was going on. But that was one of my favorites because it was very cute.
Elizabeth, I know you love bathroom encounters.
Yeah.
They are your favorite. And those aren't just reserved for adults, because this teenage girl had one too.
Just maybe a couple months ago, I went to the bathroom, and this little girl had followed me to the restroom, and I went into my stall, came out, and she was there and just waiting for me, and she was like, "Hi, can I take a picture with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." But she had followed me all the way to the restroom, so it was kind of awkward.
A bathroom selfie.
Yeah.
She's probably the only one that has one of those.
One of the reasons I love doing this show is to feature some of the stories our celebrity guests have that you don't usually get to hear. On episode 37, Shay Smolik, best known for her role on TV series Play-by-Play, tells us about a scary break-in that occurred while filming The Sandman with co-star Haley Duff.
On screen, we were laughing and giggling, but off screen, there was actually a break-in to the set. 2 people were trying to steal the cameras.
What?
And we went into a room. We were off set this time because we were changing our wardrobe and getting our hair done. But the room that I was in didn't have a lock in it, so I ran to another room. It turns out Haley and me and my mom ran into this room, and Haley was in there. And I was scared because it's an abandoned hospital. It's freaky. It's dark, and we're on lockdown. So
Wow.
Haley comes over here and says, "Shay, come here." And she has her arms wide open, and then she starts to hug me. She says, "Everything's going to be okay." And so we just have that moment. And I was freaking out because obviously it's lockdown. I think everyone would be freaking out. But then Haley was there and just hugging me and being like a real mom.
Did they capture the people that were trying to break in?
No. And the police were called, and I think they went out the back or something because
Wow.
we never found them.
What a crazy story. We've had 2 guest stars come to our studio to tape a podcast with us. And in this never-before-heard clip, Ian Bennett, star of the Milwaukee Wave, talks about one thing he won't sign. You do player meet and greets after the game, after every game.
Yep.
That's pretty cool. But I've also heard that your autograph line is the longest. Not that anybody's counting, but can you, our show's Fan Counters, can you tell us a few fan stories that you have that stick out in your mind? Some things that have happened with you and your fans?
Oh, geez. Well, I mean, you always got the occasional jokes where some of the moms might say, "Can you sign my boob?" But that's a joke, right? So am I allowed to say that on
I'm
air?
not sure that for some women it is.
Oh, geez.
Don't do it.
No,
but I'm
no,
not
I
sure
would
for
never.
some women that it is.
No, like no.
Because I know we've had some pretty interesting
joking,
fan stories where people have signed something and then they've gone and gotten a tattoo of it.
No.
Yes, we
Okay,
have.
so
We've
I can't
had.
sign it then.
Yeah,
So
don't do it because then you're
Don't sign anyone's
no,
chest.
No, because they will then tattoo that right over that sucker, and now it's permanent.
Yeah, but no, like the fans are like honestly, there's a lot of kids, there's a lot of mix, but like they've been really great. They've been amazing. Like there's a lot of fans will bring me like gifts, and I'm like, oh my. So they'll be given like some like Steve Squires will give me a poster of me, like a collage that he framed and everything, like stuff like that.
And the second in-studio guest was Olympic silver medalist gymnast Chelsea Memel, who told us about what her encounter with fans are like.
Not too many weird ones. Most of ours are kids, and they're all super great. Only sometimes the parents are more rude than the children, which is kind of funny. But no, everyone I meet is generally just really great. And even when I've gone over to seas, even just judging when I was in Italy, to have people super excited to meet me still. After, even after watching the girls who just competed, they still wanted to get my autograph. And that was really cool to me.
We continued the sports theme on episode 40 when Olympic gold medalist Scott Hamilton came to the show to talk about his book, Finish First, as well as his 2 rules for fans who approach him.
But here are my 2 rules. I'm really good with everything, with everybody. I'm always happy to spend time. And, it's like I'm not like Tom Cruise. I don't have really, I'm not that level of celebrity or whatever. But there's only 2 rules. One, if I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table.
Oh, man.
We get that. You know what? We get that a lot. You're not the first person to say that. They're always like, leave us alone on date night and don't go anywhere near my kids.
No, it's just like don't pull up a chair and just join the,
So you have had that happen, Scott.
I have. Yeah, and sometimes it's okay, but other times it's like, ooh, okay, I really want to be considerate of you, but you're not being considerate. So please understand. And the other one, which is totally logical, okay, the dinner table one is sort of a loose rule. It's sort of a, it's not really a rule. It's more
just
like
good
a guideline.
manners. It's good manners.
The one that's hard and fast, that's a rule, is don't follow me into the bathroom.
We get that a lot too. That you can't. I don't know what these people are doing, but we get a lot of celebrities who say that to us. They're like, people that stalk me in the bathroom. I'm a little bit busy right now. I can't really.
That's it. But no, honestly, anybody like whatever. Like again, I'm familiar. I've been around a long time, and I get that. I can't make mistakes in public like maybe other people could, and that's okay. I understand that. The main thing is I'm wide open. I'm really happy to sit and talk, and I really honestly believe that there are 7.5 billion people on the planet, and every single one of them has a story to tell and something I want to hear. It's just we grow, we learn from each other, and everyone has this beautiful story to tell, and it's what kind of story brings us together. It's really remarkable how, we can really be inspired and learn from each other. But, there are just a couple things, that I just, please.
Next, we talk with one of the stars of the hit show Cloak and Dagger, based on a Marvel comic book. Miles Musenden tells us about the fan he met who couldn't quite separate television from reality.
My first TV show, Army Wives. And I had this role where I was a notification officer, and I had to tell the leads of the show that their son was killed in action in Afghanistan.
Yikes.
And there was a part in it when I was talking to them, and the son, his fiance, was there as well, and she was trying to ask me questions, but these military guys, they can only speak to the next of kin. So they weren't married yet, so I could not talk to her about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so the scene was very intense, very emotional. And as I was leaving, she kind of touches or grabs my arm to ask me to ask me something about him. So I kind of looked down at her touching me because she's not supposed to really touch me. And I look at her and let her know, I'm sorry, I can only speak to the next of kin. And then I walked out and left her standing there, and she started crying her eyes out and ran off. People, I was one particular encounter. I'll tell you, I was at the picking up one of my kids, I guess my son, at the daycare center, and this lady, while I'm inside there, like, you ain't have to do that.
Ooh,
yikes!
Right? And I look, I was like, I'm wondering what's going on.
Yeah.
And then I didn't realize she's talking to me. And I had no idea what she was talking about. And she's like, you could have told her. And she's going, I could have told I said, it's a script.
Right.
It was a TV, right? It's TV, and it's a script. I can only follow the script. And that was, for me, one of the most strange encounters. And I've had several encounters when it came to that particular show and that scene for some reason. But that was the strangest one because she was creating a scene, and I didn't know I was in the scene with her.
Sometimes people forget this is just all made up, guys.
Yes, exactly.
Isn't that funny that people think that the people who you play on TV are who you are in real life? Like, I don't understand how you can confuse that.
Well, I guess if you've only ever seen them in one role, it kind of just defines that person for you.
I suppose. Next, we talked with Bosch star Ingrid Rogers, and she was really fun to interview. One of my favorites. Her encounter that she shared with us was about a fan with a weird fetish.
Yeah. Ugh.
The most recent was on social media, which was kind of spooky, where I did a scene in season 4 of Bosch where I must have had my shoes off, and I literally just did something with my foot. It was enough for this fan, to catch their attention, and he totally commented on what beautiful feet I had, and I was like, wow.
That is weird.
It's kind of weird, and I know there are people out there that have foot fetishes, so God bless them, and I won't be twirling my foot anymore.
Yes,
Right.
Socks on at all times.
Totally.
We did a set of episodes with adults and kids who were featured or starred on the hit Lifetime show Dance Moms. I was the first to admit that I spent some time watching the show during the first couple of seasons, and I always wondered one thing. Why would parents allow their children to be abused by Abby Lee Miller week after week? And on episode 43, I had my chance to ask Dance Moms choreographer Kristen McQuaid why she thinks the girls and their moms stayed on the show season after season.
I would say there's a couple of reasons. Number one, they're under a contract. So they sign a 5 to 7 season contract.
Okay.
So even if they want to leave, they can't leave. Unless they have a really good attorney. Now, I'm sure there's ways out of that. You can find any way out of a contract, I'm sure.
Sure.
But, I think that by that point, I would say season 4, the show was the biggest it had ever been.
Right.
Everyone was talking about Dance Moms. And I think that the fame just got to everybody. I think that it was like, wow, the kids had millions and millions of followers. They were bombarded by fans. They were getting tons of money everywhere by merchandise, by ads, by
appearances,
everything.
Yeah.
And I think that it was just, they didn't know when to stop. And I think that the hate that they were getting was almost shielded by what they were getting in return.
We also found out that when you're a celebrity, being married doesn't faze fans in the least.
I would say I get a lot of people that almost ask me out.
Really? Even though you're married?
Even though I'm married all the time. And they're like, we just follow you all the time, and we're such a fan of your work, and we just want to know if we can take you out. And I'm like, I am married. And they're like, oh, yeah, well, we just want to know if we can just take you out for coffee and I was like, no. I get a lot of those, actually. You would be surprised.
Wow.
Just messages in like social media, just random people that always just want me to meet up with them. I'm like, no.
On the very next episode, we had Ava Coda, who was a child dancer on Dance Moms, tell us about her experience dealing with Abby's harsh demeanor.
It definitely was really hard, but I mean, every dance teacher is critical. She just took it to a whole nother level. But I think all of us came out of it as such strong people, and honestly, we can take on anyone now, like literally anyone. Definitely. So, I mean, that's kind of cool. We definitely grew from it. Was it really necessary? Probably not. But, I mean, I think that it was definitely entertaining for viewers.
What struck me about Ava was how she appreciated each opportunity that came to her because of Dance Moms, and how she always takes time to interact with her fans, even if their questions are a bit bizarre.
First of all, I just want to say I still find it crazy that I have fans. Being this small town girl from Michigan, it's absolutely insane. But I have always said that, I started out as a fan first, and I remember seeing the girls for the first time and being like, oh my God, can I get a picture or whatever, a long time ago. But I've always said that, I will never turn down a picture because I was that girl, and I will always, take time to talk to my fans because they are the people who get us where we are. But I have to say, probably one of my most memorable things with a fan, I was at a dance convention, and this girl came up and she's like, hi, I'm your fan, whatever. And she's like, I just have to ask you one question. And I was like, okay, kind of getting ready for this. And she's like, so do you like mac and cheese?
That's the question.
I do. Yeah, I do. And then she just walked away. I was like, oh, okay. It was very interesting, but people are very creative with their questions.
Our next guest was another Nickelodeon star, this time from the show Night Squad. Lexi DiBenedetto talked about her fans who recognize her from even her smallest of roles.
Well, I've had a lot of just really sweet kids come up to me that like Night Squad. I think just recently someone stopped me at the movie theaters, and it was a brother and sister, and their mom was kind of like, they wanted to ask me, but they were shy, and she was like, just ask her.
That's me. I'm that mom.
So that was really cute. But I think the one that always surprises me is people who recognize me from Grey's Anatomy. It's for some reason people recognize me the most from that and Night Squad. But before Night Squad was on, it was mainly Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, even now, it's been a few years. And I think it's because it's on Netflix that people kind of watch my season, at different times. So I was like just recently on vacation, or I guess not recently, last year. Time flies. Yeah. The last year I was on vacation, and I was sitting next to two brothers that were kind of embarrassed to admit that they had watched, 13 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. And so they kept looking at me really weird. And the one was like, this is really weird. And he was like, and my girlfriend watches it. And I was like, okay. And he was like trying to make it seem like it was less of his interest. But he was like, were you on Grey's Anatomy? And it was just kind of insane because I wasn't, I was only on one episode. You do a guest star on some things. And to still be recognized for that is crazy.
You might know our guest from episode 46, Malia Beth Johnson, from Parks and Recreation and Mad Men. On our show, she talks about a fan encounter she will never forget.
I have a fan experience. I have a few, but I have one that really sticks out to me. And if this person is listening, I want to say thank you. And what happened is I had so when you audition for movies or TV shows in particular, they have you do what's called a chemistry read. So after you've auditioned, you come back for a callback. Then you go back for a producer's or director's callback. Then sometimes they'll have you come back and pair you up with whoever else would do the most scenes with you to see if you have good chemistry. See if you like each other, basically. See how you read together. And I had just done one, and I was asked to leave, and another girl that was up for the same part had stayed and was still auditioning.
Okay.
So I felt a little bummed, like you always do. You feel a little like, oh, bummer. All right, well, let's move on.
Mm-hmm.
But I was in the elevator just feeling that way, letting myself get a little bit into cropping up of feeling some self-doubt.
Sure.
And like we all do at certain times, it happens. And I was allowing myself this moment. I was really living that moment. And there was this woman in the elevator with me, and she turned and she said, "Gurgitch." I said, "Huh?" And I was almost in tears, I was like, "Huh?" And she was like, "Gurgitch, you're a Gurgitch sister. Oh my goodness. And she wanted to take a selfie with me. And I got out of that elevator, and her and I were talking a little bit more, and she was asking me questions. And then we went our separate ways. And I know she enjoyed her experience, and I really enjoyed my experience, because it really made me go, no, keep going. Don't quit. Do not ever give up. Even though I was never thinking of giving up, it just really reinforced this feeling of like, no, keep doing what you love doing. Don't let one thing get you down. Keep going. So to that fan, whoever you are, wherever you are, if you hear this, thank you. I really needed that day. Thank you.
While you were on vacation to Florida, I was able to get out of the studio to do an on-location interview with country singer Brian White. We've told some fun stories about our encounters with Brian back when he was topping the charts, and it was during those years, the pre-internet years, that Brian worked really hard to connect with his fans.
I remember back in the early days, I'm not kidding, I had my own stationery, and I would sit in the back of the tour bus, and I would write until my hand would not work anymore. I would try to write everybody back, and then our fan club just started growing so much that you couldn't do it. I remember calling people,
really,
like calling them from the office, and they did not believe it was me. They wouldn't believe me, and it made me so mad. I was like, no, this is really me, But if I could have FaceTimed them, I could have proved it. But and then of course it grew into something where you just you couldn't physically write everybody back, And what made me want to do that stuff is I remember my mom telling me she wrote a letter to Mickey Dolenz from the Monkees when she was a kid, and she said, "Brian, Mickey sent me back a handwritten letter with a picture of him and his dog, and it meant so much to me." And I never forgot that story. I was like, and when it happened to me, I was like, man, how cool would that be if I started calling people and writing them letters and stuff? And so, it's important to people. They want to know what's your world like, and so that's the fun part of it for me.
Brian has always been such a caring, sweet person. And in this next clip, he talks about something really special he did for a fan battling cancer.
I particularly remember meeting people on the road that they were such huge fans, and they had had 2 or 3 battles with cancer or lymphoma or Hodgkin's or something like that. People, I can see their faces in my head. I can't remember their names, but they were just completely outside themselves to be at our show, and you could just tell that it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for them, and their parents were with them, and they were on the front row, and we were able to treat them and take them, let them have the complete VIP experience. I mean, those are things that I remember specifically my tour manager, Brinson, looking at me during some of those times and seeing tears on their faces, and Brinson looking at me going, "Buddy, we don't have any problems, man. We're very fortunate." And I specifically remember him saying that to me, and he was right. We don't have any problems. We're very blessed.
All right, let's lighten the mood a little bit with Dance Moms dancer Sarah Reasons, who's our next guest that we're going to feature. And her most awkward fan moment happened while getting dressed.
Oh, this is funny. One time I was in a dressing room, and I was in competition. I was changing, and some fans come up to me and they're like, "Hey, can we have a picture right now?" And I was like, Well, I was kind of in the middle of getting dressed, and they're like, "Oh yeah, of course." And I just thought that was so weird that they asked for a picture like right in the middle of me changing.
I'm naked here, people.
We're up to episode 50, and for that show, you booked a guest that has more fans and followers than we've ever had before. So many followers that my son actually is one of them. In this clip, Roy Fabito, better known as Guava Juice, talks about one of his cutest fan encounters.
So I think I was at Disney World a couple of years ago, and then this fan came up. She was just so proper and so cute, like her voice. And she came up to me and she was like, "Excuse me?" I was like, "Hey, what's up?" She's like, "Are you Guava Juice?" I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Is it okay, possibly, if I can get your autograph signature on this piece of paper?" I don't know, just the way she says her words, and it was just so proper and so cute. I'm like, yes, you can have as many signatures as you want. Yeah, but the weirdest one so far, yesterday, oh my goodness. So I just moved into a new house. I never posted about it or anything. We took an Uber back from the airport to the house, and I had fans waiting outside the house already. I'm like, what? I just moved here. I don't know how you guys got this thing, but apparently I asked guys, and they said, my neighbor is a fan, so he just brought all his friends over.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no, I don't like you guys. It's just like, it's just my house. It's like, the privacy is just like,
Moving on to our next guest, music artist Melinda Hale, who gives a great example of how celebrities should treat their fans, even knowing some by name.
There's this one fan that I have. Her name's Sarah Flood. And she messaged me on Twitter. Well, her mom actually messaged me on Twitter because she suffers from seizures. And her mom told me that my music is the only thing that will stop her from having a seizure.
Wow.
And I much when she told me that. And it really reminded me how powerful music is. It reminded me that we as artists have such an important job when people find us and latch onto us and latch onto what we're doing, that we truly can change other people's lives. So that one, and I'm still in touch with her and her family. I try to tell her happy birthday every year. It's been a few years, but things like that are really important to me to keep relationships like that. So that's definitely one that stands out for me. That's very, very special, and really changed me.
Melinda also gave us a pretty funny story about a fan who couldn't quite separate the relationship between fan and celebrity and took things just a bit too far.
One lady really, for some reason, was trying to convince me to come be a part of her karaoke night. And I was like, I don't know if that's going to happen, but thank you. And then she kept, it was so funny. She kept talking about how, she was in the industry and she used to work with MC Hammer and she used to work with Jamie Foxx and all of this stuff. And she's like, and I have this karaoke night that I think that you'd be great for. And I was like, thanks, I'm flattered, but I don't know.
I think I'd like to sing my own songs.
I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It was just so funny. It was one of those moments that the person just wouldn't stop talking and wouldn't let up, and I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this situation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to talk to other people. Yeah, that's definitely one of the funniest and more memorable ones for sure.
On episode 53, we welcomed Taylor Bisciotti, sideline reporter for the NFL Network, and we found out that her most common fan encounters aren't always necessarily about her.
I get the funniest encounters of when people are like, oh my gosh, you're the girl on NFL Network. I never really get anybody that's really excited to meet me. Every single person usually says, do you know Rich Eisen? Is he a nice guy? They all want to know all about Rich Eisen. I should just wear a sign that says, I am Rich Eisen's agent, because I can answer any and all questions about him. I have met Rich Eisen. I wish I was as cool as Rich Eisen, because whenever I go anywhere, I'm like, wow, it must be really cool to be Rich Eisen, because everybody wants to know about him. Every once in a while, they'll ask about players or teams, and they think that you have all this inside information as to who's going to win what game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, listen, if I knew, I would be living in Vegas, and I probably wouldn't be working for the NFL Network.
Right.
We had so much fun talking with Leave It to Beaver star Jerry Mathers. He was one of the most delightful guests who had so many fond memories of working on the show and engaging with his fans.
Well, I think some of the most memorable, and to me it's even unbelievable, is a lot of times when I go different places, I'm very, very happy to meet my fans, and they always want autographs. But I have spent up to sometimes 10 and 11 hours going to some place that I thought I'd be there for an hour.
Now, Elizabeth, I cut that clip off because he started a new thought, but I thought it was worth highlighting that many times he would go to a 1-hour appearance and stay for up to 11 hours. And that's a far way to go for your fans. Yeah.
That's unbelievable.
So what exactly did Jerry Mathers fans tell him during those meet and greets?
They're always very, very nice. It's never contentious. Everybody likes Leave It to Beaver. Some people say, how come you knew that? Because that's exactly what I did even before I saw that show, and then the Beaver did it. And I always say, well, all the shows were taken from real life, and because of that, they're things that really happen to kids. It's not a joke show like a lot of the comedies are today, where people were trying to do set-up joke. It were things that really happened to a kid and things that kids would really do.
With all the people who have been starstruck meeting him, has Jerry Mathers ever been starstruck himself?
Well, I've always found that they're just people, and they're always, it's very, very nice, and I don't mean to sound, pretentious, but it's, that I can walk up to somebody and I don't feel frightened of them. I know a lot of people, sometimes when they come up to me, I can feel that they're maybe a little bashful or, and I'm very happy to say hi to fans, and most of the people I know that are actors are some of them do get bothered a lot, but, I've always had a good relationship with all the people I've worked with, and like people like Charlton Heston. I've met him, and he was always somebody I looked up to. And when I met him, I know that it was something that I'll always remember. And I've had people tell me that, and so I know the feeling. It's not like I'm so special that I don't believe that I will ever have that feeling. Now, I've met a lot of actors that I feel really blessed to have even been able to be in the same room with, let alone shake hands and just talk to them for a second.
As you know, I'm a reality TV junkie, and I've talked about it a lot on the show, how I've been sucked into the Honey Boo Boo craze, including the Mama June from Not to Hot show. Elizabeth, I've emailed June's manager, Gina, several times to try and get her on the show, but I'm always told they're busy, and I believe it. In fact, a new season of the show starts next month with Alana, Honey Boo Boo, going to Hollywood for Dancing with the Stars Juniors.
No way.
The reason I bring this up is because we had some other reality TV stars on our show that I adored, Hannah Stark and her mom, Deb, both from the Mama June show and the show Kim of Queens. So after watching several seasons of Honey Boo Boo and Mama June, I kind of started to feel like the very last season was 100% scripted. And on episode 55, my hunch was confirmed.
I chat with Lana here and there. We got close on the show because, in between takes, we were with each other all day. So we would, I would be mean to her in a scene, and then we would laugh after it. We would be together, like we would eat lunch together. But it was really fun how it all went down.
So between Mom Deborah and daughter Hannah, who attracts the weirdest fans? The answer might surprise you.
Well, the weirdos come to me, guys.
Yeah.
And so
she's a magnet.
Oh, nice.
It's so I attract the weirdos. Like Gina tells me, she's like, Deborah, you are so such, Barbie mama going through her midlife crisis. So what happens to me? I get these crazy, like, young dudes coming up to me, and it just makes me so uncomfortable because I can be their mom. And Gina just laughs at me. She's like, Deborah, you can't be a Christian MILF. And, y'all, I had to look that word up.
You knew what it was.
But it's just so funny. That's probably the weirdest thing that's happened to me.
Like the Abercrombie hot.
Yes, like the Abercrombie cute boys. They'll be like, can I have a picture, Miss Deb? And I'm like, oh, my God, I could be your mama.
Show 56 was memorable to me because we had Kevin Keating on the podcast. Now, you probably don't recognize the name, but he has a book out called Waiting for a Sign about his experience autograph collecting and befriending some of baseball's greatest all-time players. Now, in this unheard clip that was left on the cutting room floor, Kevin talks about asking ball players for autographs, and not just for an item or two, but 25 to 30. And here's what happened.
I can't even tell you the number of times I've written checks to guys because I've said, hey, I want you to sign all this stuff for me, but I insist on paying you, and they laugh, and I write the check, and they endorse it by saying, you, and they whip the check up in front of me, But my point to them is, look, I'm not in this to get you to sign free autographs for me. I don't want to do that. I want you to understand I want to have a business relationship with you, but not at the expense of my personal relationship. So my personal relationship is there because I care about you, not because I want to take advantage of you. Because these guys, everybody wants something from them. And I mean, it gets old. It really gets old. And I see that, and it's amazing to me that some of these guys are as nice as they are, considering all the demands on their time from pure strangers.
Following Kevin talking about meeting Major League Baseball players, you found a former player to appear on the podcast, Larry Heisel. He played for the Phillies, Twins, and Brewers. He was one of the nicest guests we ever had on the show so far. Amid all the great stories he had, I thought it would be nice to let our audience in on the question you couldn't wait to ask him. What goes on the pitcher mound during a conference? Is it all about baseball?
The majority of the time, it's baseball. But oftentimes a manager will come out to a pitcher. Pitcher's been really pressing, and he'll just try to lighten things up, and he might talk about a subject having nothing to do with baseball. But most of the time, I do have to admit, it is baseball related.
It took Elizabeth 58 shows. For those of you who are counting at home, that's over a year of episodes, for her to tell me that she has a friend who is an actress in movies and television. When she gave me that information, I quickly got her on the show. Chudy, too, is most known for her roles on Days of Our Lives and Nashville, and told us about her fan encounter she had in Elizabeth's favorite place, the bathroom.
What's kind of cool and also shocking sometimes is that people, when I least expect it, I might not have any makeup on. I could be having a bad day, actually, and someone could come up to me and be like, wait, I know you. And then you realize, oh my gosh, I should probably be in a better mood right now, right? I'm kind of frowning and scowling and muttering under my breath. But there was one time that really took me by surprise. It's in the middle of the Christmas season. I'm in the Caesar's Palace bathroom, and it's just really crowded and sweaty, and people are impatient. And I'm washing my hands, trying to get the heck out of there. And this woman stops and she goes, oh, I know you. I'm like, you do? And I'm thinking, did we go to school together? How do you know me? She goes, I love you. That's great. I think I like you too, I hope. It's so funny what people say. And she goes, oh my gosh, when you put your partner away, and she started to talk about my role as Detective Lynn in Desire, she's like, you were very good. I'm like, oh, thank you. So then that suddenly I established trust. I'm like, oh, you thought I was great. Well, then I like you.
Having encounters with fans in random places has to be hard because you're not on. For instance, when I pump gas, I'm not thinking about, who's coming up to me. I'm thinking about my next errand at the grocery store and what I need to get. I would be alarmed to have a stranger come up to me at a gas station, especially if I was on vacation like Chudy was in this next clip.
Another time I was actually pumping gas in Hawaii.
Wow.
Okay. And I was on a vacation and actually going to a film festival. And while I'm pumping gas, someone a wonderful gentleman goes, he actually didn't even ask me if it was me. He goes, by the way, ma'am, I saw your movie. And I am not, you pump gas. If anything, I might expect someone to ask me for money, not to have a substantive conversation. And he started telling me how Pretty Rosebud, the movie I wrote and starred in, that it inspired him. He had a sister who went through something similar, and then I started to bawl while pumping gas because I was so touched by what he was telling me. So it was kind of funny. I think it made it, and then I gave him a hug. I was like, thank you, because that's why I do this. That's why I think a lot of actors do what they do is to inspire people and help people realize they're not alone.
Last week marked the 31st anniversary of Poltergeist star Heather O'Rourke's sudden and unexpected death after a congenital heart condition took her life. After weeks of searching for Heather's sister Tammy, I found her. And when she joined us on the podcast, I asked her about the last time she saw her sister Heather alive.
I was actually working at Wendy's, the fast food place, and she actually came in to see me the night before for dinner. And then I was going to a friend's house to spend the night, and she went back to her place. And so I don't know what was going on the evening of it happening. I just know that the next morning she had I got a phone call from her mother saying that Heather was had passed out. She got up to walk around. She passed out on the floor, and the ambulance was called, and they took her to the hospital. So I didn't see anything until I got to the actual hospital. So I missed those moments of when from the night I last saw her to after that. The last time I saw her, talk to her was when she came to see me at work.
What were those final moments like? I mean, you were at work, so that had to be hard. It's not like you,
Yeah, it was. I remember, like, to this moment now talking, I can remember seeing her sitting at the table, like, across the way, like, in the dining area, and I was, like, a cashier. And, I'd go out, take a little break and sit with them while they ate dinner a little bit, and we just kind of joked around and stuff. And then she's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back, and, it's time to go back and get ready for the football game, and, that kind of thing, and stuff. So that was really, what the whole day was. There was no, like, harsh words to each other or nothing, and, it was like, okay, I'll see you later, and, and off she went.
Tammy also addresses the vicious rumors that were circulating online regarding sexual abuse between Heather and Steven Spielberg.
I want to talk about something, and one of the main reasons why I do this interview was, of course, I'd like to talk to you too because you seem genuinely nice and everything. But with all the allegations coming out recently about all the abuse and all the movie stars, sexually abusing each other and everything else, there's way too much talk about Heather and Steven Spielberg and her being abused by him and all that kind of stuff. And that really was bothering me. My mom doesn't know about it. I haven't even had to read it because it was just too much. And I've been posting to some people. The people who don't live in our house, that know who we are jumping the guns and assuming that, we just let her be abused by Steven Spielberg and did nothing about it. And it's really, I don't know why people think they could say things like that, and I understand. And Henry Winkler's one is just amazing to think that she was abused by her father and did this. But for people who just don't even know Heather at all or know us at all, 30 years later are jumping on the bandwagon of the sexual abuse being out there in the public, right, and saying, oh, well, she was abused by Steven Spielberg and da-da-da, and therefore that's what happened. She died from that. No, she didn't. And if she was abused, we wouldn't wait 15 years to say it. We'd say something then and there. We're not those kind of people. So I really wish that the people out there who do listen or can tell a friend of theirs to stop posting stuff like that because they don't know what they're talking about. And that's what really, really bothers me about the internet and people, making up stories about people they don't know anything about.
That is one of the most talked about shows, Elizabeth, and has some of the top downloads for us.
Wow.
It has reached so far, and I'm glad for Tammy to get that message out. So it was really nice for her to be on the show.
Yeah.
Moving on, one of my favorite Broadway shows is School of Rock. So welcoming a young star from the national tour was pretty cool. Leanne Parks is currently on tour playing Katie in School of Rock, and in this clip, she told us about what meeting fans means to her.
It makes me really happy to see how many people will let you sign their program, and they'll take some more time out of their hands just to come to see you and to ask you for your signature. And it's really nice to be able to high-five people, sign their program, and take pictures. And I used to be one of those people, and now I'm the one who's giving them. And I feel like how I felt is what they're feeling, so I have to make them feel like rock stars.
Leanne not only gets to experience meeting fans outside the stage door, they also find her when she least expects it.
So one time we were walking, we were just walking in between shows on a Sunday, and all of a sudden this guy comes over. He's like, "Were you Katie in the School of Rock?" And I was like, "Why, yes, I was." And he was with his entire family over. I take pictures and autographs, and I'm like, whoa, that's once in a lifetime experience. And then the same thing happened like 2 minutes later. And then it happened again a minute later. It was really cool.
Unlike you, Elizabeth, I did rush to the theater to see The Possession of Hannah Grace. starring Kirby
Nope.
Johnson. Nope. You still haven't seen
Not
it.
gonna do it. I'm sorry, Kirby. Not gonna happen.
Kirby plays Hannah in that movie, and it was amazing. It was really good. She joined us on episode 66 to share her thoughts about being constantly recognized.
You know, it's really cool. Like, I will be walking around every once in a while, and even before this movie, came out or, really came to light, I've had a following on Instagram, so I've had people stop me like, hey, are you Kirby Johnson? And, it's really nice because a lot of my followers are, like, young girls because, they're from the dance world, and they'll ask to take a photo with me. And that's just so cool to me that people watch what I do online and they, admire it. And I just think that's really nice. And it's very heartwarming for it to have a stranger, want to take a photo with you. It's very strange, and it's very kind. It's like, I can't even describe the feeling.
The winner of America's Got Talent Season 2, Terry Fader, was our guest this past December and shared his favorite fan story with us.
But my favorite fan story is that I had just won America's Got Talent, and I had flown in to go to the Jerry Lewis MDA telethon, which I had been dreaming of doing since I was a kid. Watched it every year religiously, never missed it. And so I had flown in to Las Vegas to do this, and I was at the airport about to fly out, and this woman just started to scream and went crazy, and she was so excited. And she came running up to me, and she goes, oh, my God, what are you doing here? And I said, I was here to do the MDA telethon. She goes, I specifically came to Las Vegas to go to the MDA telethon, hoping that I would run into a celebrity, and I finally did. And I said, oh my gosh, who did you run into? And she was talking about me, and she kind of got this confused look on her face, and she said, you. And I said, oh, that's right, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot. I guess I am a celebrity now. It's hilarious because I am so unaware of the fact that I'm a celebrity. And, people will, every time I get recognized out in public, it always shocks me. And it's always kind of a jarring thing where I'm like, oh, that's right. People do know who I am, but it's weird. I thought I would, always be aware of it, but I'm certainly not. I get in my own little world, and I'm out shopping with my wife or something. And then somebody will stop and say hello and want a picture. And I'm like, oh, yeah. So that's kind of funny.
Now, as you know, I went to New York City over Thanksgiving last year for the Macy's Parade, but also to see a little Broadway musical, you may have heard of it, called Frozen. The show starred Mimi Ryder as young Elsa. I do want to take this opportunity before we play this clip to thank Mimi and her mom, Kristen, because I don't know if we mentioned it, but they brought us on stage after the show so my kids could meet Mimi, take some pictures on the stage. It was very cool. So she was very kind. She answered all of their questions with patience and kindness. Certainly appreciate their hospitality. Now, when Mimi joined us for the podcast, she shared a story with us about a young fan who became her co-star in Frozen.
One of my best memories was a little girl that came to see a lot of my shows. She was always so kind and supportive, and in the end, we got to know her family really well. She was inspired by Matilda just like I was, and today she plays young Anna with me in Frozen.
Late last year, we talked with Ronnie and Foxy from the band The Hots. Ronnie, who toured with Richie Ramone, shared a story about a fan he was able to help and encourage.
I'll never forget when I was on tour with Richie Ramone from the Ramones. I was in Argentina, and this is my first time going to South America, and Ramones fans down there, it's like royalty to them. I couldn't believe it. It was overwhelming having customs asked to take photos with us after stamping our passports. I couldn't believe it. But and I'm going, I'm just the hired guy. He's the Ramon, and sure, I'll post for a photo. This is amazing. But there was this young kid who was the busboy at the hotel where we were staying, and he was waiting on us. And then when he finished his shift, he came up and goes, "Man, it'd mean the world to me if you could sit with me and I can play guitar with you." And I went, "Oh, okay, cool, yeah, no worries." And his guitar he pulled out was so beat up and broken, and the strings were rusted, and it looked like it hadn't been restrung in years. And I gave him a couple of packets of guitar strings and was like, "Dude, let's clean that thing up." And he burst into tears and started crying. Aww. And he gave me a hug, and it was because he couldn't afford new guitar strings. He didn't have the money to ever do that, and he couldn't believe that I just gave them to him. And that really, really stuck with me. That was incredible. I nearly cried.
Now, on that same show, Foxy also shared a story with us about the craziest show they've ever played.
We
we played this show in Melbourne, in Australia, a couple of years ago, and we played so loud that the top shelf of the bar with all the expensive spirits and wine smashed. The whole thing fell down and crashed, and the crowd just wanted us to keep going. We're standing there being like, "Oh my God, what have we done?" And they're like, "Keep going," and we had to keep going. And
the bar staff are coming up and yelling at us while we're playing, going, "Stop playing!" and yeah, there was some pretty rough characters in the crowd, and they weren't having. I'm looking at the bar staff like I'm not upsetting them. I'm keeping going.
Everyone alive knows something about the Brady Bunch, and we started this year with a 2-part episode with Christopher Knight, who played the middle boy, Peter. Chris gets the award for the best bathroom fan encounter ever. If you haven't heard the story yet, you're going to love it. I tell it all the time.
Do you really?
I do.
I'm in McSorley's. McSorley's is the oldest or the second oldest bar in New York.
Yeah.
Down at Wall Street. And old. Really old. But at this point, this is back when I was doing the soap bar. This is back in 1981, 81. And I'm living in New York. I'm visiting a friend who lives in Queens at McSorley's. And they had, I think at that time, they only had the one bathroom. But it might have had just one. Because back in the day, when it was a bar, it was for men, and there was no need for having a separate
women's room.
I guess a separate place for women to go, So, and I seem to recall that there was only one. I've been back since, and there's 2 bathrooms, so I don't know what I was recalling. But I do remember that the urinals themselves were built into the wall, big, kind of like tiled things, like pre-urinals, like ancient urinal, like the they made a urinal copying this kind of thing. It's like, it doesn't need to be this big, and maybe we can make it in one piece as opposed to building it into the wall. Yeah. And all I know is it's floor level too, right? So maybe you don't know.
Maybe
I have some ideas.
Nick knows. I'm sorry, Elizabeth.
I know what you're talking about.
It is Elizabeth, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I thought. Okay. Anyway, so I'm in this bathroom doing what guys do, and again, women don't appreciate this as much as they deny that we don't actually look each other in the eye when we're in the bathroom. It's not a place you talk to each other. You don't make friends in the bathroom. You just keep to yourself. You look straight ahead.
Pretty much.
Yeah, see, we make besties in the bathroom.
Pretty much what you're supposed to do in a bathroom. And then I'm in this bathroom, and I'm at the urinal, and there's another urinal. There's 2 of them right next to me. And in comes some, brazen Wall Street type who's probably, made a big deal and now, getting a few beers through him. And he looks over and somehow recognizes me and slaps me square in the back. Peter Brady! And
no touching.
I now find myself standing in the frickin' urinal, peeing on my shoes. Not only aren't you not supposed to make friends in the bathroom or talk to someone in the bathroom, you're not supposed to touch them in the bathroom, and I think you're not supposed to knock them into the urinal. But all that not supposed to happen, I wasn't prepared for what to do when it does happen. Just I keep standing there peeing on my shoes? Or do I appreciate the recognition? I thank him. I say, yeah. Do I admit that I am? Or do I get in a fight with the guy? What you've done. And it was absolutely absurd. Okay. But it's the length that people sometimes go to show their appreciation.
The Voice on NBC featured our next guest who made it to the top 10. Dave Fenley came on the show, and I made Elizabeth ask him to beatbox for us. And he did.
The Fancounters.
After 71 episodes, we had never heard a guest tell us they were a victim of a sniffer. With Dave Fenley, that all changed.
So I encountered my first sniffer.
A sniffer?
What?
Yeah. Hold your horses. Here we go. So inevitably, when you have a beard like mine, beard companies come out and they were like, hey, you should wear our beard oils and our beard wax and all this kind of stuff, which is great. So I found this one out of San Marcos, Texas, called Hungry Wolf Beard Company, and they gave me this one beard oil that was called Muddy Waters, which is a smell of tobacco, coffee, and bourbon. I don't know why they just didn't call it breakfast.
Okay.
But I was wearing this on my beard, and I was doing a fan meet and greet, and this girl straight comes up and starts sniffing my beard, and she won't stop. Like, she's touching it. Like, I've had people like, "Can I touch your beard?" Sure. And this girl's like, "Can I sniff your beard?" And I'm a gentleman, Southern gentleman, so I was like, "Sure." So she gets all up, nose up in it, and then it gets awkward at that point because she's not stopping, and she's touching my chest and my neck and sniffing the beard, and people are in the room. She's not. This isn't. We're not alone, but it's making everybody uncomfortable, and yeah, this goes on for a good. I mean, it felt like 2 hours, but it was more like 14 seconds. But that was long enough to encounter my first and hopefully last committed sniffer.
Elizabeth, did you watch the big game on Sunday?
Yeah.
You did? I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Was it boring?
Just for the commercials.
Oh, I did not watch it. But I'm not talking about that game anyway. I'm talking about what Fox played before the game. On Sunday, Fox had the Celebrity PBA Bowling Tournament on. And you know what that means?
Yeah.
It means a former Fancounters guest was on the show. Kyle Troop was bowling with Big Brother star Tyler Crispin. And they didn't win, but in this clip, Kyle talks about his fan encounters.
Anytime I meet someone that wants an autograph or a picture, anything like that, it's always special to me because without fans, we don't have bowling, and that's something else that my father taught me. So the least I can do is take a picture, sign an autograph. It's always special whenever I see kids or adults that have my jerseys, like my jersey designs through High Five. That's always really really good feeling knowing that not only are they my fan, but they like my jerseys. They want to be like me. If I had to have a memorable moment, it'd have to be Halloween. I've had a few people dress up as me for Halloween with the afro
the big
and the
afro.
wild clothes, and that right there, that really brings a smile on my face, and it's a pretty neat thing that I'm able to be dressed up as. You really can't dress up as Walter Ray or Jason Belmonte, so it's kind of cool that people dress up as me for Halloween, and I just really enjoy meeting all the fans that I do. It really keeps me happy and keeps me bowling because I know that I'm making their day, and without them we don't have the sport, so it all works in full circle.
We've made it to the end.
Yay!
In our last clip from last week's show featuring Major League Baseball radio announcer Lane Grindle, he told us about the moment he realized how lucky he was to have such a cool job.
The one story that I think has just had a huge impact on me, and just in terms of wow, what I do is really fun, and I'm very fortunate to get to do what I do. It is the NLCS Game 7, and it is my 10-year-old crying when the game was over. She was there with her mom, and when the game was over, I was doing the PA, so I popped back over to the radio booth, and my wife texted me and said, "Josie really wants to come into the booth and see you." And I said, "Well, send her in." So she came in, and she was teared up, and she was crying. Aww. And I'm hugging her, and Bob sees her, and he waves her over, and he gives her a huge hug, and he tells her, "You're going to be here a long time. You're going to get to see a World Series. Don't you lose any sleep over this. You're a Brewer. You're a big fan. I'm proud of you, kid." And Bob consoles Josie. And so, really neat moment. We walk out, and we're leaving the ballpark. And as we're leaving, right as we're walking out, there's Robin and Michelle Yount. And so I yelled at Robin to tell him goodbye since I wouldn't see him again until spring training. And I said, "Hey, Rob, good to see you, man. Tough one, but, we'll see you down in Arizona." And he sees Josie with me, and he sees that she's been crying. And he leans down, and he gives her a hug, and he says, "It's going to be okay. The Brewers will bounce back," and kind of gives her a pat on the back. And then he turns and gets in the car, and we get in our car. And my wife turns to Josie and says, "Do you realize like the two most important Brewers of all time outside of maybe Bud Selig, just consoled you after the Brewers lost Game 7 of the NLCS. Like, two Hall of Famers,
yes,
just tried to give you a pep talk. She's like, you're going to remember that the rest of your life. And even though this is a tough memory, you're going to have a positive memory of it now because of those two. And the funny moment of that was when Robin bent down to say hi to her. I said, Josie, do you know who this is? And she goes, Dad, it's Robin Yount.
I have a 10-year-old. I know that attitude.
And I was kind of proud of her. I gave a fist bump. I'm like, yeah, she knew who Robin was. That's great. Because she didn't watch Robin play, but she knew who it was. So that was cool.
That was probably one of the best stories that I had heard, not only because I'm a Milwaukee fan and from here, but just what a cool moment for that kid.
Yeah, I agree. It gave me goosebumps when we did the show.
So we've made it through 75 episodes of Fan Counters, and now we're going to start a new chapter of the next 25, and we will hope for equally as good stories on the next shows. Another great show next Friday. Make sure you tune in. And where can you find us, Elizabeth?
You can find us on Twitter at Fan Counters Live.
Guys, she has no idea what she's talking about. I was told to say this. You can also...
It's on my script.
Yeah, I know it's not. You can also find us on Facebook. Go to the private group, Sharpie Nation, and join there. Those are where you're going to get all the exclusive updates. If you want to join our general group, you can search Fan Counters on Facebook, or you can email. She does know this part.
At hello@fancounters.com.
Woohoo! Send us any show comments, suggestions, guest suggestions, and we will read them and carefully consider them and try and get them on the show. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. What a lot.
75 episodes. That's unbelievable to me.
I know. Well, we just went through 50 of them, so...
Wow.
Yeah, we can all breathe a sigh of relief, because guess what, guys? This show's over.
Good job. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
This was a podcast from the PodFix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Could you not? We're taping a show. And you just microwave. There's a microwave downstairs.